2023 winds down, the IMSA iRacing series makes its way over to Germany to continue its international swing. And here today, round 2 of the championship is on the cards, and after a trip to the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, drivers hopefully going to be in for a rather less technical challenge, one sure to provide plenty of drama in traffic. Our junior Kanki Petit on hand alongside with Dylan Coyle as we get set to go. And Dylan, I'm excited for this one. As we look from up above, the Hockenheimring has lost some of its allure after it chopped its way down in distance to just the 5-odd kilometers that we have now, but it is still definitely one of the tracks that people enjoy seeing racing at.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited, really looking forward to seeing what everyone is going to do here at Hockenheim. Obviously, like you said, it's maybe lost some of its allure over the past decade and a half since we did not have the big version of Hockenheimring in use, but it still has its charm. It still has some great sections in this racetrack. I particularly like the technical stuff that goes on in the stadium section that we're looking at. This is the front stretch we're looking at right now, but a lot of fun to be had here.
And so let's talk through the schedule, let's talk through the classes. Don't forget you can follow along with live timing and scoring by heading to timing.RaceSpot.TV. But 12-week schedule, we got 1 week left to go before we turn the page into 2024, and we'll see us travel on over to the Circuit de la Sarthe and blast down the Mulsanne for another 45 minutes before the streets of Long Beach will welcome us into a chaotic 2024. Boy, that's going to be exciting. But there's so much excitement about the fact that, Dylan, we have all 4 of the GTP cars that race in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship available in iRacing. The IMSA Esports Global Championship has just come to an end. We saw fantastic racing with both the GTPs and the GTDs, but we stick the LMP2s in there to add even more of a frenetic chaos into the mix.
It's honestly an awesome part of iRacing, right? You want to race with the cars that they actually race in real life with. You pretty much have all of it here. The entire GTP class. Hats off to everybody, the devs in iRacing who have made that possible. I don't think anyone saw that coming, but once it started crawling in, you got more cars. You really thought you'd get the full field in.
Yep, and now I think fingers crossed we get the Lamborghini in sooner rather than later, please.
That would be quite nice, I can't lie. I think that's one of my cars I use in some other
I would like
series.
the new Lamborghini. I would also quite like some of those hypercars, personally. Just because...
He's asking nicely.
I'm asking nicely. People think I have an inside track. The reality is I have no ability to turn the tide of what iRacing going to develop. Otherwise, trust me, they would be doing a lot of rallying stuff. That would be my priority. Let's go down, though, trackside to the starting grid, because qualifying done and dusted, 45 minutes onto the clock, and well, it's the Drago racing car, not Aaron Lopez, Aaron Vasquez, that will lead us to the green. Jaden Munoz in that Williams Esports Razor machine that will line up alongside with 31 thousandths of a second separating them. And then, I don't know who this is, Marcus Hamilton, but Marcus Hamilton's from Britain, so he's apparently transferred his way over to France or something. He's alongside Valentin Bonney, Danilo David, Casey Kerwin, who's racing the Cadillac, despite the fact the Acura is looking very, very strong. Timo Roder, and his new colors for Drago Racing is alongside Thomas Toulemond, and then Dominic Gutenmeyer, and then Joshua Wilson on the edge of the top 10, the first of the Porsches. Camilo Dahan and then Jan Korbs, 11 to 12 positions with Philip Spencer and then Paulo Lopez. 1.6 seconds separating your GTP cars, and we do indeed have representation across the various different manufacturers. Not something you worry about in the Spectre Lara LMP2s, where Matteo Frigiero and Benjamin Frigiero, who ran very strongly across the special event calendar, running those race clutch cars at the front of the field. Andrew Dawson alongside Ole Postrup, and then Dylan Bittman, and then Nikolai Loft, 5th and 6th position. 7th will go the way of Paul Busby. Ricardo Colombo will be alongside him with Jasper Sung, and then Hugo Prato, 9th and 10th positions. Wayne Bork charged his way forward in the running order a week ago here on Primetime. He'll line up 11th, looking to try and work his way forward again. He'll be alongside Christian Macarelli on the 6th row in this LMP2 class, with only the 12 contenders to talk about. Luca Watch, the big green machine, the Lamborghinis alongside Philip Matrevsky in the ATRS colors, Philip Bereswell, and then Miguel Costa on the 2nd row. Lamborghini's looking very strong, and then the Audis, very similar, of course, in terms of chassis. Johan Pregot and then Atu Hakaleto, 5th and 6th positions after Tyson Meyer grabbed the win in the Audi a week ago. Thorsten Ulrich and then Mike Wagner, 7th and 8th positions with Lemmy Mishka and then Ruben Denker, 9th and 10th. Egan Smithers, Matthias Temmer, 6/10 between front 6 rows with Miguel Santos, Kevin Asher, Henry Jarvalainen, Francisco Barrenuevo, and then Marcus Ehrenberg and Kyle Boss lining up at the very back, along with Stuart Reynolds and Lucas Bestel. That's the rundown through the formation, and it was fast because, Dylan, they're already running down in through the final sector and ready to go. 45 minutes, it's going to be wild.
It happens very quickly here. Of course, we're going to see everyone from the GTP class get going first, a lot of them in the Acura machine, and it's going to be a fun one. Let's see what happens.
And the way that the split class starts work is everyone, of course, does go green at the same time. It's only the GTPs that are going to be on their way into turn number 1. 45 minutes again on the clock, and here in the IMSA iRacing Sports Car Championship, it's one pit stop expected, and somehow already 3 wide. Casey Kerwin in that Cadillac tries to go the long way around as Vasquez leads them through the opening corner. Nice confident start for him as the LMP2 scramble their way into the opening corner as well. Side by side further behind in terms of your GTPs. One of them went off the track. That was Casey Kerwin, and so as the rest of the LMP2 streak on past, it's the GTDs, Dylan, that get underway as well.
Yeah, Casey Kerwin, unfortunate for him, but everyone else from the GTP class gets moving across the line, and they, with pretty easily getting through into turn number 2. It's hard to get through turn 1 without some contact, but they've done it quite nicely here. You see the top of your screen, the GTP class side by side, almost for the lead there.
Jaden Munoz had an attempt on Vasquez/Lopez, but it's now in through the Mercedes-Benz arena that he finally gets it stuck. They're still going to be side by side as they sweep their way in towards the final sector. LMP2s, by the way, is trying to run away as Casey Curran presents a bit of a challenge. A half loop around there on the exit of that first sector. It's a wild opening start to this one, and 5 cars breaking away at the front of the GTP field because of the split class start as well. Dylan, it means that we'll be on to the GTDs in only a handful of laps for the first cycle of traffic.
Yeah, it's not going to take very long here. 45-minute affair as we end lap 1 for the GTP class. Leader is Jaden Munoz, Aaron Lopez in P2 with Marcus Hamilton in P3.
And Tatima Roorda, the other of the Drago cars, is down to pit lane. I'm going to put 2 and 2 together and say Kerwin and Roorda maybe came to blows, but only the replay is going to be able to tell us a little bit more. GTDs are not into the final corner just yet, but it's Luka Wunsch, it's Philip Matrevsky's trying to break away. It's a pretty strong GTD field, and given they got decimated at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park in terms of attrition, they'll be hoping to stay a little bit more safe this time around. Here's a look at what happened into the opening corner. Kerwin's on the outside, and Roorda hops over the curb and takes the XZ Cadillac out.
Yeah, that was pretty wild. That's a sausage curb. That's why it's there in turn number 1. Here's a look straight on, and you see that they're just way down low. You can't even make that corner without a sausage curb being there either. I don't understand the angle and the speed you're going in. Got to be aggressive on turn 1, lap 1, but not that aggressive.
I guess part of it maybe was just the fact that Paul Busby's gone around, and Wayne Bork, the winner a week ago, has been tangled up. 2 more in front of them, Hugo Preda and Jasper Sung. I mean, goodness, watch the rejoin there, but yeah, when you come back to all these opening lap incidents, it's people maybe just taking a little bit too much risk, and now 3 drivers, I think, already back down on pit lane. Here's your leader, Jaden Munoz, with Aaron Lopez Vasquez trying to hunt him down still. They're out through turn number 1. GTD still half the lap left to run for them, so there is going to be some cycle. That first time through traffic, though, Dylan, it's always when these drivers are the most aggressive.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to get through them as quickly as possible. It's also the first time and the only time they're going to be bunched up as much as they will be that first time through. So it's imperative to make sure you go through as quickly, as cleanly as possible. If you don't, I mean, that leads to attacking opportunities from in behind and just chaos. That's what we love about multi-class racing here. And Hockenheim, I think it's a great track. It's small enough where you're going to see a lot of that action, a lot of that traffic coming to play. And
it's got the complexity as well of both high-speed sweepers and then the hard braking zones where your GTDs are maybe counterintuitively, but with ABS actually better in terms of performance on entry into some of the corners than the prototypes, with A, the fact that they're trying to regen some of the energy, and B, that they can lock up rather easily as well. Here's a look at another moment, this time into turn 2, as one of the Lamborghinis covers off. That's Mike Wagner, and then Ruben Denker gets a tag from behind, and around she goes, and another one trying to watch the rejoin.
And another one bites the dust there, if you will, and I think this might be a nice look at what happened in the LMP2. I think it's Wayne Bork, who, again, a very deep dive, and I don't know if the 17 necessarily saw him there. I do think Busby, who was in that 17, ooh, not a great rejoin right there, might have cut him off a tiny bit, but Bork was definitely going in with a little bit too much energy into that braking zone.
When you qualify poorly, you put yourself in that position where you've got to make sense like that, and unfortunately it did not work out there. And I get the sense there's been plenty more sort of half attempts like that which have not necessarily paid out. There's the first sight of traffic you can see heading off into the stadium section at the end of the lap. You get that curious shot where if you skip the arena section and just went straight on, you'd blast your way into those final couple of corners. But with Lopez in that Drago racing car on the hunt, it is Acura 1 through 7, then a Porsche, another Acura, BMW, and then the first of the Cadillacs. That's something that these drivers are always dealing with, and it's something that in a prototype class still, and it's interesting that we talk about, again, balance of performance and how that all plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's only one Porsche in the field, only a handful, 2 Cadillacs, 1 BMW. Everything else is Acura here. So as they move past the first GTP car, oh, a car is off! Oh my goodness, GTP class potentially getting a little bit of scary in-view sights right there from GTD.
I think it was Matthias Temer who's returned to pit lane, and you saw Porsche without a front end as well, heading out of the shot at the front of the screen initially. It may be a bit of a incident between the two of them, but we're into the traffic and heavily into the traffic now. Is it going to be a chance for Vasquez in that second of the GTP cars to slide his way on through? Jalen Munoz, by the way, 10,075 I rating. There are now more than 30 drivers with more than 10,000 I rating. That is crazy to think. I think, Dylan, if you added up both of our road I ratings together, we'd be lucky to get to maybe 7.
Well, you know what? My road I rating is not something I'm proud of at all. Even though I put in some good performances. You saw me in the bragging rights race. I was doing pretty good. Let's just say it's below 1K.
Okay, so maybe I was a bit too optimistic with that one.
I appreciate it.
Vasquez got very close to the rear bumper, and now as they get back in towards the traffic, don't go 3 wide into Sachs curve. It's very, very slippery here if you go offline, and Munoz goes around the outside. Bold. Sebastian Job found out exactly how dangerous that can be when he got shoved off the track, and Lightning McQueen says, "Ka-chow, get up my inside and get on through." It's 2 cars breaking away for the lead.
Well, let's hope it's Cars 1, Lightning McQueen, and not Cars 3, Lightning McQueen, where he flips in the first part of that movie. What a beautiful, masterful job of Munoz and Lopez to get through all that traffic in a quite technical section of this racetrack. And honestly, Lopez might have climbed a little bit closer to Munoz after it's all said and done.
It is one of those weird things where he's Aaron Lopez in the sim, but I know that's a Smurf account. Smurf with 7.4K I rating. It just doesn't feel right to say. He's not as egregious as the name, though, of Marcus Hamilton. I've never seen anything so egregious there as, again, Vasquez back up around the outside. And now if we can switch this back and get the drive off the hybrid. Remember, 50 extra horsepower spooled up with the hybrids kicking you out of the corner and through the gears. They are side by side, and they'll go either side of the traffic. No, they won't. Vasquez back into line.
Oh, goodness, what great action we've got right here, and they still are managing to get it all through. We're all clean, we're all good, and they come down this mini straightaway out of 10 into Mobile 1, turn 11, having to get through traffic once again. It's going to cut off their apex here in through 11 to 12, this mini carousel, if you will, and still, great job, great racing action, good job from everyone to get out of the way as best they can, but even more importantly, Munoz and Lopez doing a great job here. Yeah, getting through traffic.
They haven't let Marcus Hamilton close as much as they might have, but now off the final corner, Munoz slightly compromised, still with 2 cars to go before they get past all of the GTD contenders. It's out of turn 1 that these two will finally say goodbye to the GT3 machines, and here comes the Drago racing car the long way around.
It's not going to be a move that I think works until it does. What a great move there from Lopez. They're side by side, a little bit of air packed onto that right rear, but it's going to be clear just barely for Lopez. Munoz going to try and fight back on the outside, coming up to the hairpin.
They were playing some NASCAR bump drafting, side drafting style games there for a second. Long way around for Munoz. Got to watch out you don't get squeezed onto the sausage curb. It's a better traction, though, off the corner as Hamilton's dispatched of all the GT3 machines as well. Boney's been able to follow them through into the arena section once again side by side. This is fascinating stuff. It's taking our attention away from LMP2 and GT3 battles that are going on as well. But as Vasquez back up trying to get to the inside in towards that final sector, I mean, this is what we've been waiting for with this new generation of prototype machines.
This is exactly what you look for as a staple. This is what you show on advertisements of great racing. Look at Marcus Hamilton. He's right there. He is there for the taking. If Munoz or Lopez do anything, a little bit more contact, they haven't touched once in this race, I don't think. But if they do, you know who's right there in the waiting. He's in the catbird seat right now.
Vince Cousi's jumped into the RaceSpotTV chat to say that Marcus Hamilton's Smurf is higher I-rated than his main. And Scott Michaels, of course, of CrowdStrike Racing, their partnership with Movano Sim Racing as well, is not here for the Marcus slander, especially pointing out again that Marcus has more I-rating than Marcus. If you added up all of the I-ratings, I'm just getting jealous. And let's, for the moment, Dylan, turn our attention away from these drivers for just a second, as difficult as it is to do so, because through the first cycle of traffic, we still have some of these battles, including at the front of the GTD field.
Yeah, this is a great battle in GTD. I mean, usually you expect GTD racing to be the closest of all three series in IMSA. It's just great, right? They're not nearly as powered with downforce as these GTP and LMP2 cars. They've got very similar power. The balance of performance is great. I mean, they are pretty much just GT3 machines that race so well together. And it's been good racing, and it's uncomfortable racing, I'll tell you that, for them. This is great for us. Maybe not for their heart rates, but I like it.
No, I still remember Pablo Arujo, who wore a heart rate monitor in the 2022 iRacing Daytona 24 edition of that, by the way, is just around the corner. He got into the car 10 hours in. They were in a battle for the lead in the top split. His heart rate was 180 BPM, and it was not budging down. It was only going up from there.
Oh, wow.
I felt worried for him on occasion, but yes, he was able to hold on, at least on track. I'm not sure about his emotions. Here's a look at another replay. This is what happened through that final corner. Porsche goes around, and then the Lamborghini with nowhere to go in reaction.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. We get another look here with the 24 machine in GTD, and it's easy as you go, and bam! That's unfortunate.
And bam, again, the Fury SimSport car hits the wall and out it goes as well. And we saw it then trying to limp its way back down the pit straight before realizing it was not going to be able to do so. Look how close they get in through the arena again, though it said a 1/10.5, but you could barely fit a piece of paper between them. We've got about 15 minutes complete now. I mentioned at the start, Dylan, they will have a pit stop. That is only because we have limited the capacity of these cars. They could hypothetically go as far as about 45 minutes on fuel. It means that give it about 20 minutes or so, 15-20 minutes, we'll see all three of the classes down to pit lane.
Well, I guess it depends. I don't know if the option to take tires, I don't think they might want to. I'm not sure exactly what their mindsets are in that sense, but with the fuel limit set to 85% of maximum capacity, I think the smartest thing is maybe to go halfway if you're going tires, or if you're not going tires, last until the tank can't run you anymore, and then just get a few extra laps. It's going to shave off some seconds you'd spend down in pit lane. If it's the case that they want tires, they should come in 10 minutes.
Well, that's a good point. Again, we've had an iRacing build not too long ago. GTD in particular has seen what used to be tire changes basically every hour and now be slightly stretched on out, especially important heading off to Daytona, where in years past we've seen quadruple stints on tires be possible. And yes, 4 hours on a set of tires.
Wild.
I mean, Daytona's not necessarily the highest load track, albeit the banking does put its own stress on the tires, but it is pretty cold. Vince Cousi says we're not expecting tires, mainly because there's not enough refueling time, but we have seen potentially 1 or 2 stop one or two tire calls can be somewhat of gamble. So GTD bottom of the screen, Matrevsky, Bereswell, and Costa all still trying to hunt down, as Bereswell's had a little bit of an issue and dropped back even further in the number 16 machine, so there's going to be a bit of a change up there. They're starting to see the traffic pass around once more. Dylan, we haven't seen what's my favorite part of the race, all three classes on top of each other at the same time.
But once we do see that, are you going to just need a moment of excitement for that? Because that'll be pretty awesome.
We can turn up the sound, I think, for that one, because that would be pretty great. But at least it's not the, what was it, 4 classes you had in IMSA this year, because you had the LMP3s as well?
Yeah, that, oh my goodness. LMP3s definitely are an interesting...
Dentist machines?
Yes, for sure. I think I was at the first Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona when they did have LMP3s back in IMSA competition in the top class in WeatherTech. And it was very interesting just seeing them on track and kind of being slower than GT Daytona at times. So, it was still entertaining at times.
You mean when the driver was bad, because those things can actually move decently fast when they've got a capable driver behind the wheel. But when you don't have such a capable driver, you've heard from the likes of Lawrence Bantor exactly how much he does not appreciate being stuck behind a slow LMP3 car, especially in the era of the GTLMs. Here's Casey Kerwin, by the way, the eagle-adorned Cadillac for XZ Racing, newly minted race winner in the IMSA Esports Global Championship, winning in the Michelin 240 just this past Sunday. Saturday. It wasn't a Sunday race, it was a Saturday race. But I've got to say, Casey is someone that Dylan has very much taken steps into the world of road racing, mainly because of iRacing, and the more that he does it, the more he enjoys it. It's a vicious cycle, and now he's got 9,500 I rating and is very capable of running at the front of any top-level field.
I don't know where some of these drivers find the time over the last decade to accrue that kind of I rating. It is pretty impressive because not only do you have to race a lot, but you have got to consistently succeed expectation, or like you got to do better than what is expected of you each race, and to be able to just keep it consistently at that level is so impressive. Casey Kerwin, who of course was involved in that lap 1 turn 1 incident just 16 and a half minutes ago, has made it back to just 2 spots total dropped from where he started this race, and I could definitely see him getting maybe a I would say 6th is exactly where he could potentially get, which is where he started in this race. He's fast. 9,500 I rating. Oh man, I could only dream of that.
Pretty sure he's got more I rating on the road side than he has on the oval side nowadays. And I'm also,
which is wild.
Yeah, I'm also pretty sure that if he wanted to, he's a full-time, as he put it to me, we were having a chat a couple of days ago, he is a full-time streamer who sometimes does some esports racing on the side, as behind him a car goes by. If he wanted to put more time in it, he's ran in iRacing World of Outlaws World Championships before as well. I would not be shocked if he could do one of what only a couple of drivers have done in history, compete in every different discipline of iRacing World Championships. And I say that knowing just how difficult that is. Let's go back to the replay, though, because Wayne Bork was trying to work his way back on forward, but his race now comes to an end as, well, the man from down under ends up in the wall. You can see the spin in front of him, and as he makes his way on through, gets to the inside, and might have even been some netcode there potentially, but that's just an unfortunate one, Dylan.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. You know, he was going down the inside a few laps before and got involved with Busby in an incident through the stadium, the arena section, and unfortunately for him, it's another collision, and it's him out of this one entirely. But we go back to live pictures here, and still a lot of great racing action happening. Aaron Lopez is doing what he can to try and chase down Jada Munoz, or I should say vice versa. Munoz has passed, or has been passed by Lopez.
Now Munoz still leads. It's 6/10 at the front of the field in that bright green Williams Esports Razor car. That's the great thing about Williams Esports, just a reminder. They make commentators' lives easy by painting the front of their car the color of the sponsor. So you've got the green for Razor, the purple for BenQ. The black for chill blast, the orange for play seats, and who knows what else. The best thing about all Williams liveries, and this applies in both the real and the virtual worlds, is we look from this wonderful camera that could not exist in reality, but break out my yellow pen. Dylan, have you noticed the Duracell battery at the top powering it all?
All right, listen. This is your case of great integration of partners in a livery, or a livery, I should say. Goodness me. And not only that, I've seen it before. You've seen it before, and we know where it's been in the real world of international open-wheel motorsports.
Do I?
They do it, Williams.
They do it on the Formula 1 car too as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's awesome. It's smart. It's great branding. And if we ever get a battery sponsor at College Racing, you know where I'm going.
Yeah, well, that's why I was saying it's so important that they've carried that forward in both the virtual and the real world, because I think it's just one of those things that I look at and I notice it every single time now. As we look from up above in through the final sector. It's getting a bit dark. Maybe some cloud cover here as Marcus Hamilton's lost out in traffic. See him behind Luca Wunsch in the Maniti Racing Lamborghini that finished quite well in the final round of that IMSA Esports Global Championship. Philip Matrevsky still on the case for GTD's battle for the lead, but Miguel Costa, after Philip Bereswell had that little issue and dropped back, maybe with that slowdown penalty. You can see the bright pink machine, the Iron Dames liveried entry, works its way in towards that second corner. And totally out of drafting range now means that if there's no tires, you're not going to take tires in the pit stop, Dylan. What we are probably thinking about is the chance that there might be some fuel saving going on now and potentially a shorter pit stop coming up.
Yeah, and if that is the case, it's smart, right? You want to take as little bit of time that you possibly need to in pit lane and come right back out with the shortest amount of time remaining in the race. If that's the case, if you don't have much time to go until you need to go full throttle, I mean, then you're good in a way where your mind isn't on the fact that you need to come into the pits. I feel like once you're in that second half, because it is split up into two halves, right? First, second half, pit stop, not having to worry about it, it's a different mindset, right? Like you're racing to pit lane right now, and then you're racing to the checkered flag, to the finish of the race, which I think will change your priorities a bit. You know, right now it's chaotic. Everyone's trying to settle in. Once you go in the pit lane, you know who you're fighting against. You know the drivers that are going to be around you, and you know who you could potentially catch up to. I think that's an important change as we get a replay here. Is this just a loop-de-loop?
It is Aaron Lopez / Vasquez who's had a bit of a loop and has come down to pit lane. He's on the curb. He straddles it on the exit. And surely that hasn't broken the suspension of the car. There is a chance that it can do so. It's not a big chance by any means. Let's ride on board and let's listen in for a sec.
Oh, man, just...
Sounds okay, though. It doesn't sound like the big crunch that you would sometimes hear with a broken suspension. And indeed, he's actually gone away from pit lane after only being stationary for around 16.5 seconds. So it might be slightly on the long side of what we expect, but I think that small mistake from Lopez / Vasquez is going to mean that we're not going to see a battle to the end here. He's compromised us. He's ruined it.
Oh, no, Aaron Lopez, what are you doing, man? I mean, it's unfortunate, right? We hope to see some great battling till the end here, but there was some awesome battling between Lopez and Munoz through the first 10, 15 minutes of this race. And I think even though we haven't gotten to the dessert, I do think my appetite was quite happy with that.
Vince Cusi does correctly point out it could have just been a little bit of Lopez coming in to cool off the tires after a spin like that. You know they would be screaming out in agony, and that's why I think now he's got to try and find probably around 3 or 4 seconds in terms of clawing back up the time. He will do so while also trying to dice his way through the tail end of the GTP field as we check back in with Matrevsky and Luca Wunsch. And Matteo Friggero now 4 seconds clear of Benjamin Friggero for the LMP2 class. We did see a week ago at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park that there was a pretty big swing in terms of pit stop times, and so maybe that could be the case here today. But I think it's next week, the final race of 2023, the final broadcast of 2023 for RaceSpotTV as well, Dylan. When we go to the Circuit de la Sarthe, that's going to be the race where strategy is most important, because when the laps are so long, you only get so many opportunities to come down to pit lane.
Yeah, that's fair. Usually we talk undercut, overcut. It could come in a form of 3, 4, even 5 sometimes laps. No, maybe at most a maximum of 1 or 2 lap differences when you do come into pit lane. Those are very thought ahead kind of decisions. You don't make it in an instant at the Circuit de la Sarthe at all. You do that, you're fighting a losing battle.
No, absolutely not. And if you want to do something fun this weekend before you're celebrating some holiday cheer, or if you want some holiday cheer, what I would suggest, by the way, is as Jaden Munoz comes down to pit lane, the Dallara IR18 is at the Nürburgring Nordschleife this week for IndyCar Fixed. You don't need a setup. Just jump in and have some fun. It is some of the wildest stuff that you can do. There is Munoz in that Williams Esports car down on the pit lane. Here's Lopez/Vasquez coming in through the final sector. Remember, it was 16.5 or so seconds for Lopez. It's going to be 15.8 for Jaden Munoz as he's off and away. And so it's the difference, the length of the pit straight that separates the two drivers as they're finished with their pit stops.
Yeah, length of pit straight, and that's kind of what you see. Look at that visual representation of where Munoz is, and of course where Lopez and the rest, or excuse me, Vasquez is. But nonetheless, good racing, 20 minutes left to go. Not much of a battle right now going on in GTP for the top spot. And really, everything's kind of calmed down for top spot battles, but this is a nice battle right here with some traffic.
I think we are going to see, as we exit the pit stop cycle, GTDs potentially start to break themselves up into their little battle packs, and maybe the same for the LMP2s. There's damage to the front of that number 10, isn't there, for the second of the Frigeros, and maybe that explains a little bit of the separation between the two of them after relatively close on qualifying. Yeah, that entire front end is looking a little bit worse for wear, I'd say.
Yeah, it definitely is, and of course that's going to hurt a lot of how that air kind of flows in, keeps the car planted to the ground, and he's going to be falling back for sure, maybe into the clutches of Andrew Dawson, who we're riding with right now, currently P3 in this class, and I think it's going to be P2 in not too long of time.
This is an LMP2 class as well that I think is going to be quite interesting how it continues to evolve moving forward, because I think it's clear at this point that GTPs are here to stay. Everyone loves them. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. LMP2, well, at least in the sim racing world, finds itself in an interesting place. It's great to have the 3 classes of competition, don't get me wrong, but you look on over at various other series around the world and there could be arguments made to, much like we did in IMSA, for example, keep it isolated to just the GTPs and the GTDs, and therefore LMP2, which got slowed down slightly, Dylan, to accommodate the GTPs being slower than the LMP1s that historically they replace. I think it's going to be curious how many people elect to commit themselves like the Frigeros have done to this car over 2023.
It is an interesting conundrum, right? You want to have cars that are very different from each other across the entire scope of the playing field, and I mean, LMP2s are, yes, the GTPs are really fun to drive. LMP2s, they're just maybe not as fun as riding a GTP for the average person. So for all these teams and where they're deciding to go, where the support's going to be, it's probably in the land of the GTP class. It's also why you look at LMP3, right? And in real world IMSA, why would you go to LMP3 if there's LMP2? And why would you go to LMP2 if you have the money to go into GTP? You know what I mean? It's kind of a weird thing. Especially
since there are going to be private customer GTP cars. Like, the problem at that point only becomes licenses and the FIA license game system, which we don't need to talk about that because, let's be real, that is one of the worst systems in the world known to man. But besides that, it, again, raises some interesting points. Paul Busby says, I raise you an interesting point with something that happened to him, because I see him having dropped down the order and being back down. Ooh, that's a technical right there.
Oh, yeah, that's weird. Yeah, that's interesting. We'll get another look on board with Busby, and I wonder if this wheel snaps. It's something that, what?
I mean, he does quite well. I assume that either his pedals died or his monitor had gone.
I would assume monitor there.
But he steered through the corner relatively well, you know?
He did, and I mean, hey, maybe it's just instinct. You keep steering until you're like, okay, this feels a little bit like it's not a banked corner right here. Let me just kind of, I mean, that could have possibly been it. You have so much practice at this track during the week that you kind of just know the feeling that you get when you're in the corner versus not. I mean, I pretty much act like I'm driving blindfolded, so to actually drive blindfolded would not be the best as we're riding on board again, or not on board, we're watching this battle for P2 in LMP2 with Figueroa and Dawson. It's good, but remember, Porcar is chasing a wounded number 10.
And we are expecting them down to pit lane at some point as well. We must point that out. All but two at the front of the GTP class have come down pit lane, and similarly in the GTDs, it is only Filip Matrevsky who is still out there. Luka Vunch is pitted in that big green Maniti machine and has left Philip Braswell, Miguel Costa slightly further behind, and what will be a fight for net third position amongst the two of them. Marcus Hamilton is taking this stint as long as he can, means that we might expect a slightly shorter pit stop than the likes of Munoz and Lopez, but I don't necessarily think we're going to expect it to trend in the way that we would want to, as back out they come, sweeping their way on through. So it's Le Mans next week, great. It's Long Beach after that, which I've already had people messaging me going, ooh, I'm going to be on that broadcast. I love Long Beach. And I go, you love Long Beach. Wait till I'm shouting about you crashing at Long Beach. But yes, that's going to be interesting.
Long Beach is going to be so much fun to see this series there with the GTPs. I mean, in the real world, there's no GTPs at Long Beach.
No, there are. No, Long Beach is GTP and GTD.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
It's Lime Rock and VIR,
that's right,
isn't it?
That's right. Yes, that's exactly what it is. And have fun. It doesn't seem like a track that should have GTPs there, but we're all the better for it.
Yeah, apparently we're going to do that to the drivers. We're going to force them to live that through. There was some conversation, by the way, in RaceSpotTV chat. We are not ignoring you, by the way. Really interested to hear that LMP2 on iRacing is thriving and surviving, because it's what we want to see. More classes, more competition, more top-level drivers having opportunities to shine, as Casey Kerwin's going to take it 3 wide with the traffic. He's alongside Dominic Gumpfelmeyer, and he's up the inside, and he's going to ka-chow his way on forward. There's no doubt about that. The driver of the XZ Racing number 95 in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. He's back up into 6th position where he qualified. I don't think that's necessarily the story that he would want to tell, though. Here, though, is Marcus Hamilton down on pit lane.
Marcus Hamilton getting, God, I can't say that without laughing a little bit, to be quite honest with you. But he's out. He's coming out of pit lane right now, and we'll see where he kind of lasts on track. You see everyone just flying right by him. That's, of course, Munoz in P1. David Dandelot, he came out as well. In behind Munoz. He was with Hamilton at that same pit stop. I can't do it.
It's too funny.
Serious.
I'm telling you.
It is. I need to make an account that's called Chillin' Doyle.
Now, I did warn you before we got started that there was a Smurf account in here that I was going to call out, and that is the one here, by the way. Move for second. I do think Wounded Machine, and finally Andrew Dawson pounces and slides past Benjamin Fragera, who's already built up a 0.8 of a second advantage as they come to the end of what is the 22nd lap for them. They are a lap or so, half a lap behind the race leaders. LMP2 is now all down into pit lane as well, as it's a busy, busy time. Don't want to slide your way on through your box. It's something that, Dylan, it's so easy to do, as a driver we haven't seen much today rolls his way away, still in the lead.
Yeah, and because the timings are going to be very similar with the amount of fuel you're putting into these cars, the time that you lose is really all the time that's going to separate you from other drivers that go in at the same point. There's really no time to gain, right? It's only time to lose. So so far everyone's done really well, as we see Frigiero coming out just in front of Andrew Dawson. So a little bit of a swap around right there.
And so move now has to be redone. Vince Cusi says slipstream in the LMP2s is so weak. Andrew Dawson says, let me juke my way into the grass to get my way alongside. And as the race leader slots in behind them as they come out of the hairpin, it's Dawson on through. And now Frigero going to watch as 3 wide once again. Better run off the corner for the race clutch machine. And outside will switch back to the inside into the arena section.
Oh, that's just beautiful racing. Still side by side. Don't take out Munoz, the GTP leader. Oh, goodness. Still side by side. They are just connecting. How about collecting?
Oh, that was contact once. There may be contact again. Dawson's going to bully the race clutch car. How are they leaving each other enough room here?
I mean, they really didn't leave each other enough room a little bit earlier through turn 10. They're still side by side and just barely in front is the 10 machine of Frigiero. Oh, but they make contact again. Coming through the final 2 corners, side by side. A push out into that AstroTurf area. Oh, who's going to give up first? Who's going to be the last of the late breakers? And that was just a position given up for the time being to fight another day.
That was 3 different bits of contact from what I counted. And even though the front right corner of the race clutch number 10 does look a little bit fixed, I'm not sure if they haven't beaten each other's machine to within an inch of needing more repairs at this point. Marcus Hamilton's going to come on, and with 10 minutes left to go, cycle his way on through as well. The car behind them is for position, that yellow and blue LMP2 car. Ollie Postrup's been closing steadily as these two continue to fight. Dawson this time hangs on to the inside line. Frigero again forced to go the long way around, bullied onto that curb once more, and it's a drag race out of the very same corner, this time with Dawson in front.
You asked why would someone go to LMP2 racing? This might be why people still like LMP2 racing here in IMSA. Side-by-side action. This corner, turn number 10, is where they made contact last time, but a few car lengths have set in between them. Ali Postrup, though, still in close, in tight. Only a few car lengths in behind from this entire battle, but there is some GTP traffic going underneath Postrup, and that was just perfectly timed for both of them.
And this is where you just look at the hybrid and the engine kick into gear on that GTP machine, and that's where it really makes the difference. They both have plenty of downforce. It's really just a detuning of this engine back a couple of years ago to accommodate it. LMP1 was expensive. How expensive? Well, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars to run those programs. The per unit cost for cars that I have heard, and these could be on the low side, or we can consider between 20 to 50 million per car. You compare it to the cost of a GTP machine, where we're estimating about 5 million for the car itself. Add on your running costs, your spare parts on top of that. By no means is GTP cheap, but it's not as expensive as what it used to be. It's a lot more of a economically sound business proposition for some of the A manufacturers, but also B for the racing teams as well.
Arjuna, getting into racing is never economically sound.
No. You know the best way to become a millionaire, right? I mean,
oh yeah, to start off as a billionaire.
And then go racing. I mean, it's an age-old tale. And that's where things like the Prodigy Racing League come in trying to give opportunities to drivers. Although using sim racing as that step forward, that's what the hope is. Back over to your GTDs, where it's Acura domination for GTP, Lamborghini domination for this GT3 base class, and Matrevsky, you can see the ATRS car about 2 seconds behind, needs a little bit of help to get back into drafting range.
Yeah, still needs something. Something needs to be amiss in front for this Lambo to catch up to the other Lambo. You know, we were talking about you needing the updated, the current Lamborghini stuff in this sim. I will say, if we go outside the top 5 in GTD competition, Audi's got some representation, just not in the top 5.
They won last week, though, you know?
Yeah, I know.
New car syndrome. It should be winning every week on iRacing. I should be careful. I will get myself in trouble with comments like that. But it's good that we have the new Audi, despite the fact that Audi Sport has mostly pulled out of North America, because heading into the Daytona 24, boy, I mean,
yeah.
What car would you want to pick? Have your pick amongst, what's it, 9, 10 of them?
I mean, I like to always drive the Lambo. That's what my go-to usually is in sim, but I'm disappointed. I mean, I'm very disappointed with Audi and how it's looked in recent years of them kind of changing their priorities. You know,
well, they
I don't
change
wanna
it
say,
every 6 months. Let's
right.
be honest.
That's fair. That's fair. The other thing is like when racing is, let's be honest, in sports car racing, the goal is to succeed to then use it as a marketing and branding tool.
Mm-hmm.
And when you feel like you can't get any more branding or marketing out of racing for your brand in a specific country, I mean, they can pull out of the series, that's fine, but it doesn't make the sporting element of it any less disappointing.
Well, the funny thing is... Okay, no. We won't go down that path. Now, then we'd start just talking about wild nonsense about fuel restrictors and dramas at the Daytona, the Rolex 24 in the real world. They had a very, very successful spell, and the Audi R8 GT3 car has been... I don't know the actual numbers off the top of my head. It is one of the most successful, if not the most successful, GT3 car in the entire world. It's just a shame that it is kind of going out with a bit of a, however you want to phrase it, not the way that you would have.
Oh no! What is this?
Colombo, Loft, Bittman, Asher. I mean, who hasn't been mixed up here?
I mean, I was taking a quick peek into some of our LMP2 and GTP class leaders, and it looks like they're all fine, but that was a chaotic look at what just happened.
Dylan Bittman's the one that looks up the inside as you get rid of those annoying bars on the middle of your screen.
Yikes.
Tags a Porsche around, and the rejoin from the second LMP2 car wasn't ideal, but it's just not great from anyone there.
It's the lowest speed corner, though, so maybe it's just a, hey, how you doing? I'm here. My bad. Excuse me, let me just do a donut real quick, and, well, you wanted rally.
Yes, rally.
You wanted rally, so there's your Barcelona-esque in the middle of the street, do a roundabout.
We're going to get a fight between Lopez and Hamilton, by the way, because the two Smurf accounts have found each other with 4 minutes left to go. Hamilton's lost some ground in traffic, and at the same time, Lopez has just been dicing his way on through with reckless abandon at times, but careful abandon. Sometimes is what you need in these high-speed situations. Slides it up the inside of that Audi, and that's what I mean when it comes to the high-speed game of chess that these drivers are playing.
That was a lot of trust in the aerodynamics of his GTP car, but he's right here. This Acura is going for it right now with Hamilton. Again. Oh, but look at that, a quick shimmy and a shake from Lopez, who got a little bit too much into that gravel on the left side, but it's all good. He still keeps that momentum going. Some traffic in the case of GTD running in P4. Miguel Costa, but quickly, look at that speed difference. It's unbelievable. Lopez is right there, but this is not a passing opportunity as much as some drivers try to make it seem like in lap 1, turn 1.
Now, there aren't too many options in terms of setting up these cars, maybe counterintuitively. You're restricted on gearing to some degree, you're restricted on what you're going to end up doing with the wing settings. It's all ultimately about how you keep it connected to the ground with the suspension platform and the limited options that you have there as well. And so in towards the end of the long straight, there's not really a top-end difference between the two of them, but as Lopez just tries to hound the rear wing of Hamilton and just set something up back into the arena, I don't think it's going to be here. We should have 2 laps to go next time by. It's going to be with this traffic that's coming. Matrevsky, then Luka Vunch, maybe an opportunity for Lopez to get on through, but a chance for Matrevsky to close that gap for the lead if things play out in his favor. It's a good time for him to get past, because as they sweep their way in towards that final sector, he's clear now, and into the final couple of corners, Luka Vunch is going to have his rear view mirrors filled with 2 angry Acuras behind.
Oh, you gotta be careful. I mean, hey, he almost looked like he's gonna get split. Almost was by these two fighting for the second step on the podium in GTP competition. I mean, goodness me. What do you even do if you're in a slower class? It doesn't matter now. Look at this. A quick look to the inside in turn 1 goes nowhere. Arjuna, you were ready to just get scared out of your shoes.
I saw the hybrid kick Vasquez out of that final corner with a little bit more speed, and I thought he's got some battery saved up, and that's something else that these drivers will all be thinking about. They got one more lap after this based on the clock. I don't know if you want to deploy all of that hybrid energy just yet, but how defensive is Hamilton going to be? The Movano CrowdStrike car half on the inside. Well, Lopez doesn't go for it this time around. It will come down, I think, to the final lap of the race.
Well, you say that now, but these two look like they really want to get this P2 spot and get it now. A little bit of separation has formed between Lopez and Hamilton through that little kink to the right-hand side going down into Mercedes. And coming out of it, though, we'll see if that hybrid power kicks back in. You're right, we're just going to have a lap and a half at this point for these drivers left to go, as Jada Munoz, who has done a great job in this race of just staying P1, had a great battle earlier in the going for P1, and he came out the victor so far, and he'll start this last lap. White flag in the air here at the Hockenheimring. It's coming down, you're right. One lap to go for P2.
And so, Munoz, who won a week ago, much more chaotic race at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park than this one has been. Both drivers for second, run wide out of turn one, knowing they built up a little bit of a buffer in terms of the off-track, can afford to abuse the track limits. Here out of turn two and swooping out of turn three. Hybrid kicks into gear, and it's Acura versus Acura. Hamilton covers all the way to the white line instantly. He's not going to allow Lopez the chance to sneak to the inside. Long way around for the Drago car, but with the overspeeds already through. Oh my goodness!
They come together just barely coming out of the hairpin, and Lopez will scream on through. Hamilton, does he have anything to fight back and get into P2 once again?
I don't think there's enough time for the second Acura in this chase to close back in. White flag officially in the air as the clock has struck zero, and as Jaden Munoz heads through the final corner, Aaron Lopez / Vasquez with a last lap charge to get back up to second spot after the mistake in hunting down your race leader. It was a mistake all born, though, from the pace that Jaden Munoz displayed. It wasn't pole this time, but it's back-to-back wins in the IMSA iRacing Sports Car Championship for the Williams Esports driver of Jaden Munoz. He'll go to the Circuit de la Sarthe looking to make it 3 for 3 to close out 2023, and the odds seemingly stacked in his favor. Lopez and then Hamilton, second and third position, and then it'll be a bit of a wait before Valentin Boni and then David Dendelo, the next cars to the line. Quiet day for Matteo Frigero, but Race Clutch victorious in the LMP2 category.
Yeah, great job from Matteo Frigero, as Andrew Dawson will come P2 in LMP2 competition. Still a lot of drivers in a huge hornet's nest at the back of this LMP2 field. It's all mixing together in GTT, but hey, it's starting to calm down quite quickly. What a great race. The big green machine of Luka Vunch victorious in the GTD category. It was only 1.1 seconds back to Matrevsky at the end, so traffic very much did play a bit of a factor there as the final drivers will come to the line, and a couple of drivers saying, get me out of this one, pulling to the side of the track. Maybe a little bit short on fuel as well, let's not forget. Yeah, that might have been a lot of the case. I mean, this was a 85%, remember, fuel limit. So some drivers might have come just a little bit short of being able to get into turn one after the checkered.
I mean, at the end of the day, you only need to get to the checkered flag. Any fuel after that's wasted fuel. Hey, even if you run out of fuel coming out of the last corner, as long as you cross the line, we're not Formula E. You do have to not splutter out of the final corner, and that is something we have seen this year. It has been a wild 2023, let's be real. Let's take a look at the race results and maybe what was not unexpected in Jaden Munoz being up towards the front. The margin of victory, the surprise, 7.3 seconds over Lopez. Marcus Hamilton in third, and then Valentin Boni, David Dendelo, and Casey Kerwin claws his way back up to sixth position in the valiant effort to be the best of the non-Acuras. Dominic Gumpler is behind Jan Korbs, then finishes in front of Joshua Wilson, the sole Porsche 963 in the field, and then Camilo Dehaan rounds out the top 10, all finishing on your lead lap, as can be said for Philip Spencer with Thomas Toulemond and Timo Roda and Paulo Lopez. The three cars going laps down, and I think two of those cars actually finishing the race, one car a DNF. In the spec LMP2 class, 10 seconds the margin at the front between Matteo Friggero and Andrew Dawson. Even the damage being fixed for Benjamin. Couldn't see him hold on to second spot while Ole Postrup dropped back in the closing stages. The Chaos Grenade being dropped behind meant that Ricardo Colombo got past Nikolai Loft and Dylan Bittman, and then Christian Macarelli, Jasper Sung finishing on the lead lap. Unfortunately for Paul Busby, word in the YouTube chat and the virtual paddock was pedal failure for him, and so he'll be hoping to try and get that rectified to kick off 2024, while Wayne Bork, who ran very, very successfully a week ago, on his way to victory at Mosport, finished us down in 11th, just in front of Hugo Preto, and two drivers there, DNFs for the both of them. In the GTDs, Luka Wunsch, 1.1 seconds in front of Filip Matrevsky before Philip Bereswell, Miguel Costa and Mike Wagner make it top fives for the Lamborghinis. Ato Hakoleto, someone that we're more familiar with, slinging some dirt on the iRacing platform. First of the Audis in 6th with Johan Pregigot in 7th, Lemmy Mishka, Carl Boss and then Lucas Besta through your top 10. It will be just Stuart Reynolds and then Ruben Denkler, Henry Jarvalainen, Egan Smithers, Thorsten Ulrich, and then Miguel Santos, apparently, all finishing on the lead lap. Marcus Ehrenberg, Kevin Asher, Matthias Temer, and then Francisco Barrenuevo through the 20 machines that, well, through various states of disarray, ended up seeing the end of this race. What a fun race it was as well. We got one more broadcast on RaceSpotTV. It's here a week from today, same time and same place. It's not going to take us back to the Hockenheimring. Instead, it will see us travel over to the Circuit de la Sarthe. But Dylan, that's going to be a fun one. And I did see in the chat, Jaden Munoz apparently very strong there. I think everyone's going to be hoping he's not around a week from today.
Yeah, if this is a track coming up at Circuit de la Sarthe where he's very strong, what do you call his performance at Hockenheim? I don't know if you can't say that he's strong anywhere. Maybe, does he have any weaknesses, any track weaknesses? We'll have to just find out as this season goes on. But a great time, great show. Thank you for welcoming a oval driver. Hey, look at that. We got the Van Gatter du Monde Circuit de la Sarthe.
And we'll get the flyover as well. It's always great to see the tricolor emblazoned in smoke in the sky. You've got the chicanes to worry about as well. It's another interesting track in terms of the management of traffic that we're going to see, because we're not going to see much of it. Because it's such a long lap, it makes it such an intriguing race from that perspective. And, of course, 2024 has got plenty for us to build towards. 1st of March sees the end of our season at Silverstone. But, of course, it's January, the focus on the Rolex 24. And our race at the Rolex home, the Daytona International Speedway, is going to come actually the week before the Rolex 24. So it comes the day before the iRacing Daytona 24. Dylan, what better way for us to get ready for the biggest sim race of the year?
Oh, it's always a great time, and hopefully I'll be back in the booth for that one, the 24 Hours of Daytona. It's been quite a while since I've been part of an endurance special event with RaceSpotTV, but I think you come to RaceSpot, you should have a good knowledge of multi-class racing.
It's going to be good, that is for sure, and it is all just centered around a special event calendar released in its entirety that sees not only the addition of the Martinsville MX500, but returns of staples and the shifting of the calendar to move things around to slightly align them better to their real-world counterparts. One more race on RaceSpotTV. If you can't join us a week from today, well, it's time to bid you farewell, to wish you a happy holidays, and to say we'll see you in 2024. For Dylan Coral, alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati, thank you so much for joining us. Still one more race this year, yes, at the Circuit de la Sarthe, but it's been a good 2023. We'll see you next year if we don't see you at the Circuit de la Sarthe for the next round of the IMSA iRacing Sports Car Championship, the next edition of Friday Night Primetime.